Farmers are hopeful that the recent rainfall helps their pastures grow. In today's Indiana Farm Report, News 18's Marley Thomas spoke to a Purdue professor about managing livestock in pastures. He talks about the importance of rotational grazing and why farmers should remain patient even after the recent rain.
This is an example of the growth of alfalfa, which has been grazed heavily.
Purdue Forage Extension Specialist Keith Johnson says pastures have been under stress due to the weather this year.
The growth of the hay, and our pastures have not been up to standards since essentially mid-May.
As a result, Johnson says this has led to overgrazing.
We need to have these animals get a full bite when they take it and not just nibbles. And that impacts the quality and the quantity of the forage in future years if we overgraze.
That's why he's stressing the importance of rotational grazing every year, not just during droughts.
If we could break up our pasture into paddocks, those are subunits of the pasture, that certainly is going to provide some recovery time for the forage that's there.
Johnson says the grass needs to be at least 8 to 10 inches tall for livestock to graze.
You know, this would be a minimal height of where you'd like to turn in.
And when it gets below 4 inches tall,
overgrazing has occurred because we're down to something less than a quarter of an inch in height.
That's when he says it's time to move your livestock to a different lot.
It's an opportunity to keep that crop healthy because it needs recovery time just like we do in our rest.
With the recent much-needed rain, Johnson says now it's a waiting game.
Let that pasture growth get to that height of at least 8 inches and don't try to go out and begin grazing within a week or so after the rain occurs. Again, we'd like to get that growth to recover and get up to a height where these animals can get a full bite.
Even when the regrowth happens, he encourages farmers to remain patient. You shouldn't rush to put your livestock back in the same pasture.
If that animal goes back and grazes that regrowth again, that's deleterious to that plant because it hasn't had time to recover.
In Tippecanoe County, Marley Thomas, News 18.
Johnson says sometimes livestock will look for other things to eat when pastures are overgrazed, which can be problematic since we have some poisonous plants here in Indiana. He says rotational grazing is extremely important.